Hey everybody, it's a little windy out here. Got here later than anticipated, waiting for the temperature to drop. And because of that, the clouds rolled in and now the sun went behind it before it actually hit the hills. So I decided to call this a sunset walk because it's getting close to sunset, at least from this point of view. So, hopefully you can hear this okay. My quick snapshot frame actually showed the wrong aspect ratio, but what are you going to do? So here's the place, Edgewood Park. Protected from being a golf course about, God, at least 30 years ago, maybe 40 years ago. And it's just a really cool place. Lots of local wildlife that's protected here. Bay Checkers butterfly, San Francisco Bay garter snake. Has a lot of endemic special plants that are adapted to the special soil here. So native plants actually stayed native. They didn't get totally overrun by invasives from various parts of the world. These grasses, of course, are European wild oat. So very similar to what's in your oatmeal. But it's just, they're annual, so they grow and they make these golden fields, but they dry and they die because they're annuals. They don't live perennial lives. And they're scenic as far as what people are used to in California, the Golden Hills of California. But if you look at old paintings of when botanists visited here, Schultz and Agassiz and all these guys who are out here, a lot of plants are named after. It wasn't Golden Hills of California. It was a lot of perennial bunch grasses. And native plants grow between the pockets of the bunch grasses. So you have this nice mix of plants coming and going, but a certain amount of consistency with some of the grasses. There were also native annual grasses too, but a lot of them were bunch grasses, and you find a lot of them here. They also get dry and have a dry appearance like they're dead. But if you look, there's a faint, of course the sun is low, but you can't see the color as much here. But that main hill up ahead, which is a good stand of this, what they call serpentine grassland. Serpentine is the California state rock. Mineral is called serpentinite. And it's low in calcium, high in magnesium. So a lot of the plants that came here from other soils didn't know how to deal with that. It's kind of not a favorable condition. You wouldn't have your garden set up like that at home. So the native plants are automatically protected by the soil chemistry and just evolving here millions of years that way. And when the introduced plants coming over on purpose or riding in people's clothing and storage vehicles and all kinds of stuff, they basically carpeted everywhere they could go. And they're still happening to this day. There's one called, there's a shrub called tamarisk, grows near waterways in the south. You have water hyacinth, which is one from the tropics that was introduced until and kind of took off waterways. And we have with animals too. Snakehead fish have been released some places. The mink crabs are brought here for food by Asian community, and they're kind of causing a problem in some of the local environments. So we learn and we try to change behavior, but some of the stuff is too late. It's already happened. You just got to manage it while it's here. But so if you get a look at the stuff here, it's not not wildflower town, because it's well into the summer, almost the end of summer, and so you're not getting a few holdovers here, little flowers left behind that are hardy and late bloomers. But in general, the beautiful carpet of wildflowers that I think I showed that last time I was here, but I don't know, that's why I came to do a stream again, because last time the stream was kind of choppy. I had a different phone, different provider, and the end result was pretty crap. So that's why I wanted to do another one, even though it's much later than I planned and the light level kind of stinks. But anyway, you as you go through here, this is not the best representative area here because there are plenty of invasives that have gotten in here. Partly because they got used to the soil chemistry, and partly because this was not a hardcore serpentine soil, although there's a bunch of it here. You can see the serpentine rock peeking out here, and there's some little gray-green blocks of the rock. It's all over the trail here. I'll point some out as I see it, but it's kind of in the same group as asbestos. So you'll see there's some fibers, kind of fibrous looking parts of the rock, like asbestos has. Anyway, so some beautiful fog rolling in there. The sun is lighting it up a little bit. So it's pretty, but I was counting on some of that sunlight to hit me here, get some color. But it's okay. This is what happens around here. If you don't have a camera pointed at that part of the sky before you get somewhere, you drive there and you find out the hard way. And it talks about here the local snakes. This is so people don't kill the gopher snakes, thinking they're rattlesnakes, because sometimes they mimic the behavior by rustling their tail to scare away predators. And it can sound roughly like a in the debris or in the rocks. So people say, it's a rattlesnake, and they kill it. But the pattern's clearly different. The head is clearly different, and the behavior is different when you see them as well. But people often kill them, which is sad. What else we got here? So you can see some of the bunch grasses here that are natives. They have a little bunchy style like that. And even they, like I said, it gets dry, they die back. They don't die completely, but a good portion of the plant can can die back. And we have some really dry years here where a lot of the plants die and they basically have to grow back. But in general, the perennials help the place stay looking pretty decent over time, and not just a bunch of dead annual grass. The pictures here from 20 years ago, it's a totally different look now. So the stratification is very different. The overall look of the area is quite different. This stuff is generally pretty consistent. It's very windy out here. And you get this on the coast a lot, in the coastal scrub. These scrub oaks, which is the Spanish word for scrub oak, was chaparral, which is why this plant community is called chaparral. Further up there in the shade, it's called oak woodland, lots of oak trees and shade and certain plants that like that. But here you see that it's kind of low to the ground and looks like it's been groomed. But it's actually, it's part of the heat and part of the wind. It's very windy here. There's a German term called Krummholz, which is called wind browsing. And in windy areas, like on the coastlines and stuff, you might even have it near your home. If it's quite windy, you get Krummholz plants, where basically they low to the ground, grow within a certain height, and then just kind of sprawl. So that's Krummholz. This one, not so much. This one's a little bit taller for some reason. Maybe it's a little less windy right here. But over that slope, you can be up here, it's very windy sometimes. And up on the hill as well. It gets pretty windy. But those are regular oaks up there. Those are valley oaks and live oaks. This is a scrub oak right here. So luckily it's starting to grow. People are behaving themselves. So here's some of the serpentine rock here. See the color? Bend down, get a little closer, you can see it. Icky, ropey look to it in some spots, but it's got blue-green color, well on the gray side. It's the state rock. Yeah, I should dig out some old pictures. I have them all over the place, slides and prints and digital photos and all kinds of stuff from this place. An ecology study out here for class in junior college before I transferred to university, and spent an entire night up here on that hill. I'll show you the spot I actually hung out in. That was a nice little colorful cloud there by itself. So I spent a whole night up here taking hourly readings of temperature, relative humidity with this thing called a sling, so I kind of wet it and swing it around and take a reading. And other observations like animal noises like owl hoots and insect noises, just all kinds of stuff to flesh out the perceived ecology of the site. Didn't get enough, with a full load of classes, I didn't get enough time to spend out here really, unfortunately. So in the end, my project was okay, but the guy I was working with, because supposed to team up on a project, was pre-med, and he didn't really give a crap about ecology and general biology. school, barely put any time into the project. I did most of the work, and because of that, two people's work really looked like one person's work. So yeah, we didn't do as well in the project as we should, but it was kind of a bummer because I didn't enjoy the class. It was the kind of stuff I actually wanted to do before I got into doing computers for a living to make money, and my living situation changed, so I had to pay rent, hire, and all kinds of stuff. So I basically didn't go back to school ever after my bachelor's degree, even though I planned on doing that. But it's not a big deal. I have fun doing what I do now. But the end result is I kind of let myself down. I kind of let my teacher down, who was actually my friend. I talked about him on the Micro Attic stream recently. He's my friend who's here, around 80, and didn't look like it though. He looked easily 15 years younger than his age. He was super fit, super energetic, traveled the world, been to Africa at least 30 times, part of his eco tour group, as well as doing it for fun. Made friends with his wife doing a mountain gorilla talk. Got probably 89, 87, maybe, no, 80, 88, 89, something like that. Found out her husband teaching the biology series class at the Enza. Ended up taking it from him instead of the guy at Foothill College, and became friends with him. And then he said, I got to take it because you sound amazing. And he was. Hard teacher, but the hard teachers are always the really good teachers because they force you to work, and nothing is handed to you. And he was my friend, but he still graded really hard, so I had to bust my ass to do well. But it was worth it in the end, and travel with him. And some of the stuff we visited after that was a bunch of the stuff we studied in class we got to see when I went to Kenya and Madagascar and things like that, as well as local trips to Audubon Canyon Ranch to see egrets and herons and stuff doing their breeding displays, and tide pools and all kinds of stuff. Just really, really fun. Just a guy. And, anyway, but I kind of let him down with that stupid project, and I let myself. But yeah, I moved on, and it was fine. But every time I come here, I kind of think about that. As much as I love this place, I came here long before I did, but still come back to it because it has a lot of good memories as well as that one sunny. So it's getting a little darker here, so I should keep moving. Because once I get in the forest, it's going to be fairly dark. You guys want to be able to see something. Nice view here of the bay. Up the far right is San Jose. Straight ahead is Palo Alto. And you get here to Redwood City and some other off the bay here. See the foothills here. There's tons of housing up here, well off the main road. And this park is surrounded by housing, essentially. I walked past someone on the way in. And across the Highway 280 there, you'll hear some noise later. There's a bunch of housing over there, big fancy stilt houses that all the rich folks have. Real estate up here is crazy. Easily $5 million houses here or more. Because of the location, the view, the works. Got the flight path here, so there's always noise traffic here from the airplanes. And this place is nice, has rolling hills. You got a trail junction up here. You can walk down to another entrance way down through a little zigzag down in the tree line down there. But I always come in the back way by the houses. It's a shorter hike right into the good stuff, but still a plenty long hike if you take the whole loop. And then you used to find, haven't looked for a while. It's kind of overgrown now, but I used to find lots of funnel web spiders here. They make these really cool, elaborate carpet webs that, lack of a better term, looks kind of like a black hole. It's funnels down to a center point, down into a hole where they hide out. And if you look down with the light, you can see them waiting in ambush in the hole. There's a nice cracked rock there. So I've been huffing and puffing. I haven't hiked for a while much, so definitely out of shape. So don't see any here, but this is where they normally hang out. And it could just be too hot for them. They've moved somewhere else. During the day here, it's quite hot this time of year. I don't see them. But it's funny, you can sit there and watch them in the hole. I've got some flash photos of them. It's kind of cool. All bunched up, ready to pounce. But what's fun is you can mimic the erratic behavior of a trapped insect. Pop out, see this giant shadow there, which is me, and no food, and quickly jump in the hole. So it's kind of fun to, I don't do it very often because it's a waste of the energy. I feel sorry for them. But it is funny to show people that who haven't seen that before. So I could do that here if I could find them, but don't see any right now. Lots of holes from gophers. Now we're heading to the oak woodland part. Almost Tolkien-like here with the, what's the one forest to go to that's creepy? The Craghorn Forest. I forgot the name of it. But anyway, you guys know it. If you guys know Tolkien, you know what I'm talking about. So plants in the front. This is called Toyon. It's these red berries. Very colorful, durable plant. Lives in the oak woodland and chaparral. And then we're getting into poison oak. Look at that beautiful color. If anything ever showed warning coloration like you get with animals that don't want to be eaten by predators, this is warning coloration of like, don't touch me, I will mess you up and give you the worst case of contact dermatitis you've ever had, which I've gotten many times in my life. Turns red when it's this time of year, because as the plant starts to die, chlorophyll production stops because it's expensive for the plant. Same reason you get the fall color changes. But there's plenty of the times you see this green lobe portion of it. I'm trying to find where it's actually still green. This is almost red. But so this time of year you can't miss it. It's totally obvious and totally avoidable unless you're just not paying attention. But most of the year it's either sticks or green leaves. And it's a lobe plant. It's called a trifoliate leaf. So you basically see 3 leaflets coming off a stem. They're lobed. They're usually shiny with the oil. It's just nasty stuff. But you can also get it from the sticks. And people have also burned the sticks using it for kindling and inhaled it and got it internally, which is really bad. Anyway, bad news. Poison oak. There's poison ivy back east. And then the sumac is another relative. It's actually, the genus finally changed names about 30 years ago, I think, 20 years ago. It was the genus Rhus, R-H-U-S, Rhus diversilobum. And now it's Toxicodendron diversilobum, which is perfect. Toxicodendron, toxic leaf, toxic branch. It's pretty awful stuff, but beautiful. But then, so again is a Amanita muscaria, mushroom. It's beautiful until you eat it, have a bad trip, and then die from the poison if you ate too much of it. So, California Bay, very, very much stronger than the Mediterranean Bay. Everyone uses for cooking, but you could use this for cooking. It's just a hell of a lot stronger. And also, I think it has more of the, this one has a compound called umbelluone. The genus is Umbellularia, so Umbellularia californica. Umbelluone is the compound that actually gives you a headache, but also makes the thing incredibly fragrant on top of the normal bay smell, and also makes it great for dog beds to keep pests away. Pests don't like these nice, strong, fragrant medicinal scents like we do. So your dog might hate it too because they have a sensitive nose, but hey, they're not going to get the pests. So people have made entire dog beds of bay leaves and eucalyptus leaves and stuff to keep fleas and other pests away from them. Lots of moss around here, showing you that it's quite moist in here at times. Got some oak trees coming through here. Get close. More of that nasty red stuff. Look at that. Tons of it. More moss, some lichens. Talk about lichens, another. The body is a fungus, and the contents giving it the green color, and the food creation from photosynthesis is an algae. So it's called mutualism because one provides a home, one provides the food, everyone's happy. Same thing happens with the bacteria live in your gut, the good bacteria, and at the same time we give them a nice little home. The bacteria live in your skin that make vitamin D3 from sunlight, same thing. So good stuff. And there's actually an old car here from years ago when this used to be not a park. I don't know where it went. It's been overgrown by junk over time. Used to be able to really see it. Like a lot of places around here, this was private property before it became a park. So some rich folks owned this at one point. More of that nasty poison oak. Look at all that. Here you can see, so this can be confusing. There's some of the green stuff there mixed in with the red. See, it's still lobe leaves, still trifoliate leaves. But occasionally you get like a blackberry vine growing through here, or something similar looking. And because it's in with the same mess, you think, oh, it's all tainted, it's all going to give you dermatitis. But not always. Sometimes the stuff is growing together. There's a nice old oak tree. Actually did a 3D scan of this last time I came through here, but I haven't tried to print it yet. But big old craggy oak tree with lots of sprawl. See how that kind of fell down, kept growing along the ground, and growing that way until eventually that part of it died. But this part's still alive, it's still sprouting off the stump, and it's all craggy in different directions up in those branches there. Pretty cool. Lots of moss on it. And here's a good shot of the leaves here. Coast live oak, so very shiny, waxy leaves to keep the moisture in, reflect the heat. Brighter, not so tough underneath, but has those little fuzzy bits in these little branches under the leaves, those little arils. But look at the spines. Probably pull it on my hand so you can see the spines. It's very ouchy when you grab it the right way. So coast live oak have these roundish, sharp, spiny leaves. Valley oak has lobed leaves, like fingers on a hand. I'll show you there's one up top. One called gold cup oak, which the wood is so hardy. As you guys know, oak wood is very, very tough, very dense. And there's one called gold cup oak or mall oak. And word has it they used to make mauls, which is like a splitting axe, out of this type of oak to split other wood if you cut it into the right shape. It's kind of wild. So now we're getting to another junction. This goes further through the oak woodland. Nice view change here. Can't even see the other side of the bay. It's so hazy and cloudy over there. Normally get a lot of lights over there. This trail goes up just for a view. This goes up to the hill you saw when I came in. And this is where my study site was. Nice fog rolling in over there. Beautiful drive up to San Francisco, taking 280. It's fog rolling in, just amazing. Set up a camera, do some time lapse. Really, really nice. Excuse the huffing and puffing. got to hike more. There's a kid up here making some noise, so just bear with it. So this tree up ahead, just to the left of that bench, was a hell of a lot smaller when I studied up here. You could actually see through that tree to the other side where the houses are. Same with the tree next to it. And the one time I actually came out here to study, you had the oak moth caterpillars all over the tree and some ants. And if you ever had an oak tree or seen what happens with oak moth caterpillars, these tiny little, it makes the pupa formation before their form of metamorphosis to a moth. And they're colorful little pupae, plural of pupa. And they just blanket the tree all over the branches and stuff, and they sometimes drop on you if you bump it. So it'd be kind of messy hanging around here. But ants are all over the tree. So I was hanging out by this tree, taking my readings, going out a little bit, take a reading away from the tree just for some variation, for micro. Beautiful view all night. A little bit windy up here, but clear. Springtime, so it wasn't super cold, but it can be cool up here even in the spring. And the breeze coming through here helps cool things off. This is I can actually pick one off a lower branch here, you can see. So, not as tough as the live oak, coast live oak, but still waxy, a little bit tough. No spines, just lobes, like a lot of oak trees you probably see around. I think even the cork from Spain that they do all the corking from, the bark, also has lobes. I forgot. I haven't seen one for a long time. So that's a valley oak. As far as I know, one of the few around here. It's not a very common tree around here, mostly coast live oak and scrub oak. And what do we got over here? So horses are welcome up here, all kinds of horses. This is horse communities. So big houses with space often board their own horses. If not, they have local places to keep the horses. Again, the people up there have lots of money. If you ever had a horse, you know how much a horse costs just to have one basic one that's not even a show horse. But a lot of people ride their horses up here, compete, do shows with them. It's pretty serious business. So you find horse apples everywhere you go, horse manure. And it's biodegradable, so it's fine. So here's a big stand of poison oak, green and red, growing up, kind of almost bushy. And it can grow up trees too. It's very viney-like sometimes. You can see it growing up trees. So it's very adaptive to whatever habitat it's in. And I just avoid it like the plague. So there's a little sign, habitat restoration. Please don't come down here. And this is the trail that goes down. You can see this, the bare end of it there off the main trail I came in on. There's a little tiny trail going into that. That's the one that goes up here. That luckily people are not using anymore. So, yeah, so that's the view up here. Bear with me while I take a quick shot with my DSLR. Because why not? Actually, not DSLR, it's actually a mirror. Let's take one of the entrance over here. Nice. Okay, almost got it. Come on, Matrix, grab the right area. I'm doing this one-handed, so I'm depending on the autofocus matrix to grab what I need. There we go. It works. Cool. Get back in my little camera holster here. Very handy purchase. And quick one-hand action. All right, quick view of the side over here. So a long time ago, these rails weren't in here. These benches weren't in here. The signage, none of this stuff. Even that fence right there wasn't here. It was all open. Not that many visitors, not that many people misbehaving. But now they can put signs everywhere. Please be responsible, be respectful, blah, blah, blah. There's another stand of chaparral down by the entrance I came in. Very hot during the day, but you see how it's all low grown, that Krumholtz stuff, like it's been basically manicured, but it's not. It's nature. So, yeah, it's getting a little darker now. Sun has gone down. Plane going overhead. So now we're going to back through some more oak woodland on the way to the exit on a big loop. So I'm about quarter to half the way there, somewhere between there. Maybe closer to a little past a quarter. Sorry for the wind, I can't stop it, so I'll stop talking while the wind is going. Kind of a camera nerd, so normally when I come to a place like this, I have my 360 camera, my DSLR mirrorless type camera, a point and shoot, an infrared camera to do some thermal shots, all kinds of stuff. Just because. I also bring my recorder to record birds. I have a parabolic microphone I've been using for, God, since college, before the college actually, to record birds with a nice focused. It's a Sony PBR 330. They don't make it anymore. They pretty much stopped making it right around the time I bought it. So you either had to make your own or find some professional one that was hell a lot more money. The Sony one I had to buy from Audubon Society. Actually, no. Cornell Laboratory of Ornithology back east. They were selling stuff like that back then, along with their recordings of birds for identification and education and stuff. So I actually bought it from them. Without a microphone, it's like, this is like 1989, 1988, something like that. It was about $200-300. So you can adjust for inflation, what that would cost. But yeah, I treat it like gold. I took it to Hawaii, used a DAT recorder there for some birds. I took it to all over the place, actually. Really fun. But I also bring it out here once in a while. Really great in my neighborhood at night, because where I used to live was super quiet, and the northern mockingbirds would sing all night because they have this behavior where they see lights, they sing. It's not normally their behavior, but they've over the years of living with humans, they've learned to defend their territory, not only imitating other bird songs, hence the name mockingbird, but also like backup beepers of cars, mechanical noises, all kinds of crazy things, especially other birds. And so they sing all night to keep their habitat going. If they're awake, they'll be singing. And so when it's super quiet, no cars, no traffic, not even any wind sometimes, you can stand right under a tree, use that parabolic reflector, and basically the bird is like talking right into the microphone. And so I have beautiful recordings. They're on cassette, but they're beautiful recordings from way back when, using that thing. So I love that technology. It's not great for ambient sounds, like you hear the crickets already started to go off here. Probably hear more when I go inside the trees, but not great for that because it's focused, right? It makes a shotgun mic look like a joke. It's super, super focused. So anyway, I use that once in a while. You do lose some bass frequencies with it because the way it focuses the sound, but that's okay because most birds don't have a lot of bass frequencies, at least the songbirds. So now it's starting to get darker, getting some more lights. This camera is doing a pretty good job of being hypersensitive and giving you much more light than I'm actually seeing because it's auto boosting. And now we're back into the, I think it's Mirkwood. Is it Mirkwood? I forgot the name of the damn forest. Sorry, Tolkien. There you go. Stop right here. Listen to that. Beautiful. So very close to me. Oh, some deer. Excellent. I was counting on that. Columbian black-tailed deer. Odocoileus humeonis columbianus. Also called mule deer because of the big mule-like ears that they have. Now he's listening to me with the big ears. And it's freezing because I'm not sure what I'm doing. Thinks I can't see it. So it's checking me out. Not moving. Stopped grazing. I don't see any young by it, but on the way up here I did see a mother with the two fawns. But, so right now it's just like, okay, you're not threatening to me, but I'm pretending you can't see me. So I'm not going to move. Something reminds me of that Monty Python episode. People can't be seen, and the guy starts blowing them up. Yeah, it's okay, dude. Relax. You can go back to doing your thing. I want people to see you moving. They're so used to human behavior, walking by constantly, they just go about their business. As soon as you stop, they're like, whoa, what is your business? So I should keep moving, but I wanted to see if it would just get used to me and keep doing its routine. But it's clearly not liking this. So I'm going to keep walking, aim at it, and we'll see if it keeps doing its thing. It's certainly going to move because I'm changing angles, which means I'm getting behind it, which means I'm more of a threat to it. Now it's looking back at me. It's kind of small here, and it's a dark thing in front of a dark background, so I'm not sure if you guys can see it there, but it's about just slightly to the right of the edge of that. Yeah, there, it moved its head right there. Hopefully you saw that. Now it's looking the other way, and now it's starting to walk. I'm no longer a threat. It's back to its routine. It's grazing again. So, yeah, nice little quick view. It's dark, unfortunately. But this is when they're very active. Although you see them during the day, they're quite often active dawn and dusk. So during the day it's called diurnal. Dawn and dusk is crepuscular, which is a great word. And of course, nighttime is nocturnal. So they have a certain amount of nocturnal behavior, but quite often you find them late day, crepuscular, or plants, whatever, in the area where they've been bedding down. Like, look at this right here. See how it's all flat right here? Compared to the grass nearby. That's clearly a bedding zone for some deer. Quite a few of them, it looks like. If I go level with the grass. Hopefully. So yeah, signs that they were here at some point. Oh, it's getting real dark here. Sky isn't dark, just the canopy makes it nice and dark. As far as I know, there aren't any mountain lions here. Doesn't mean they can't come here, but they normally don't encroach into areas this much surrounded by civilization. Normally stay at the parks close to the hills on the other side of the freeway, which you'll see in a bit, all the way up to the hills and all the way up and down what they call the green belt. So, all right, now at the top of the Chaparral, which will be baking at this time in the middle of the day right now. It's this plant called chemise with these tiny little leaves. Super dark right now, you can't see it. Tiny, tiny little leaves. So this adaptation to hot, dry conditions is minimal surface area. So it still has enough to get photosynthesis going from tons and tons of tiny leaves. But none of them are spread out wide enough to get any more hot than any other leaf. They can still photosynthesize. They can still transpire with their stomata. So gas exchange can happen. CO2 and water can leave. Oxygen can come in, all that stuff. So, yeah, that's chemise. Another indicator of chaparral. The scrub oak, chemise. A couple other ones around here. Those are two of the main ones. Another one called manzanita, Spanish for little apple. It's very colorful, it has this shedding bark behavior where it flakes off. Another one similar to it called madrone or madronio, also sheds its bark. And back when I used to read a lot of articles on this stuff, I'm still kind of mysterious about why it does that in this climate, especially when we don't have a lot of epiphytes here. However, maybe a holdover from when the plant was part of an earlier version of the plant was part of a tropical environment where they tend to have epiphytes everywhere. If you ever go to the tropical rainforest or subtropical zones where every square inch is covered with something, you know, like the forest debris is very minimal because it's recycled immediately. Plants growing on top of other plants like bromeliads and just tons and tons of plants that grow on other plants. Orchids grow on other plants. And so you have, you know, that adds a lot of weight to the tree. And as they get wet, even more weight. So epiphytes sometimes get a free ride and don't give anything else to the plant. That's not mutualistic. So some plants in the tropics have devised a tactic where they basically shed their bark and drops off the pest plants, basically hitching a free ride, like barnacles do on the whale. So it could be that it's a holdover from when they were in the tropics at some point, way back when. Or it could just be some other reason that nobody figured out yet. That's the fun thing about this, about studying nature and biology in general. Just like any good science, it's always changing, always following the data, always questioning various things. Boy, it's getting real dark in here now. Look at that. You can just see the sky. My eyes can handle this now. This is where the camera freaks out and chooses the sky over the the trees. So it's all silhouettes. Anyway, like I was saying, the mountain lions aren't common here, so deer's one of their favorite foods. You just don't find mountain lions here. In fact, I've been looking for mountain lions my entire life. Even had a special permission with the local park when I worked for City of Palo Alto part-time at the zoo. And one of the zookeepers and I got gate keys, got permission to go in after hours, and we got good at tracking mountain lion tracks, finding deer kills by them, their scats, dung piles, all that stuff. Pretty good amateur, biologist stuff. But a couple nights we even did like a stakeout. I didn't have night vision at the time. Years later I did. It would have been fun to sit there and actually watch if they come in to grab their food. Problem is they can see us and smell us long before we know they can. So they could have been just waiting for us to leave and then go back for the food. When I say that, it's usually just one animal because they're pretty solitary. So it was a fun game, but I don't think we would have gotten anything serious out of it other than the thrill of maybe getting to see one, because there were people who at that park, many times had seen one in the early hours of the morning or late in the day when they closed, walking around through the picnic tables. They started setting up those trail cameras on the trees, capturing all kinds of pictures of them, so we knew they were there for sure. And I've seen bobcats there too during the day, which is cool. Never saw one, ever. Even trying to see one accidentally. So it's kind of a bummer because they're really cool animals. My cousin, who died a few years ago, he was living up in the kind of Humboldt area, Fort Bragg, Mendocino kind of area, in the mountains. And he said many times he would come home and see them. One time he came home, one was in his front yard, saw him, freaked out, did this massive leap, like, like a 10-foot of the bushes and stuff. And I thought he was pretty lucky because I would love to see one because they're beautiful animals. The only one I ever saw was at the, everyone goes to San Diego Zoo and the Wild Animal Park when they go down there. But LA actually has a zoo, which is not bad. I went there once and they had one at the LA Zoo, a little mountain lion in the enclosure there. And it's never fun to see captive animals, but they're captive for a reason, either because they were injured, saved from being destroyed by somebody, even law enforcement, or any number of reasons. Maybe it was a private animal somebody had as a pet illegally, so it's used to people, they have to keep it in captivity. So, working in a zoo for years, all the arguments about keeping captive animals and not. But, then we had this woman come in one time. I'm in the bobcat cage playing with the bobcats. She's like, oh, the bobcats are so cute, but it's really a shame you keep in these cages. And I took my city employee hat off for a second and very nicely basically said, I hate to tell you, but you're wearing a fur coat. You're probably going to go have a hamburger for lunch or a steak or whatever, chicken dinner. All those animals are in captivity just for your enjoyment. This is an educational animal. These animals were rescued from the wild because they were injured or captive bred for a reason, for education purposes, whatever. They really didn't have a choice, and they're giving back in their own way to educate people and make people care about voting for animal rights and ecology issues and stuff like that. You basically had a selfish meal and a selfish coat just for you. Those animals didn't want to be a coat because it took like 3, 4, or 5 animals to make a coat. And she didn't like that. She got left in a huff. But I mean, I'm not in trouble for saying that. I was being honest and I wasn't rude about it. But you come to an educational institution spouting off nonsense. I'm not just going to be quiet. I'm going to, say what I have to say. And, she felt embarrassed by it. But hey, you got to straighten people out sometimes. Be honest with what your choices are. Doesn't matter if those are your choices, but live with your choices. Don't try to dump your decisions on somebody else or make people feel bad when your hypocrisy makes you look way worse. We're all hypocrites in some way. I'm a vegetarian, but I still drive an SUV to carry my big telescopes around and to camp in and stuff like that. So, I'm not Mr. Eco Warrior like I used to be in college, but I do my part, my voting choices, my buying choices for food, and some other things. So, I'm not perfect. Got a lot of baggage as well, like anyone else does. But I'm not going to go around give people a bunch of grief when I have skeletons in my closet as well. There's the freeway down there. So, pretty good sized freeway, Highway 280. It's only about I think 50 years old because 101 started getting clogged. 101's the original El Camino Real when they had the missions here, going all the way from San Francisco and further, all the way down to San Diego. And it diverts in certain spots to be a town or a city. But for the most part, El Camino Real and 101 are the same. And like Palo Alto, Mountain View, places like that, it becomes El Camino Real separately. But at one point, at a couple points, it joins up to 101, basically. Yeah. So that's Highway 280. And on the other side, it's all dark because a couple of these areas don't have houses right here. But at some point, you'll see houses at night, these houses on stilts for all the rich folks up there. All right, back to the dark trail here. Oh, listen to the crickets here. A little harder to hear because of the traffic, but they're there. Nice thing about this park too, the gate actually locks, but it's not really policed because you're not parking inside the gate. You don't get tickets. You can be here any time of the night, as long as you don't cause any trouble. So, you know, it's nice that way. There are other parks around here that are quite nice, that are managed much more, and you park in the parking lot and you're inside of a gate. So if your car is left after hours, you get locked in, and some of those there's no way to drive around. You're kind of stuck, and you get a ticket on top of that. Or if you're walking to your car after hours, and the rangers are like, you know, we close half hour after sunset, right? Yeah, I know. Took the long trail. Sorry, lost track of time. They're pretty cool, but sometimes they're not in the mood. They'll give you a ticket, and we got a ticket one night because it was a good hour after we should have been back to the car. It was dark. I was using the flashlight to get back to the car, and the ranger was pissed. So I'm like, hey, sorry, I'll take the ticket. It's like a $30 ticket too. It's kind of annoying, but we broke the rules. That's how it goes. So these kind of parks I like better because they're a little more wild, a little less populated, and nobody to tell you what to do, basically. As long as you're responsible and you're not afraid of the dark, and you're not here drinking and littering and making a bunch of noise for the residents, you can do here, go here, whatever you want, do whatever you want, pretty much. So this time of night, no one's here. I'm like here by myself right now, which is kind of cool. Just like it was when I was studying the project here. It's kind of an uneven surface here, so I'm walking a little slower so I don't trip. It'd be nice to tweak my ankle just walking a little trail. There's some rustling in here. Lizard just a little bit active. You also get little birds, ground birds sometimes rustling through the leaves. No owls this time of night, still a little early. And definitely see some deer at some point. Interesting to see how YouTube handles this compression with dark images like this. I've never tried a weird mixed dark image on a stream. The bars are pretty good though. This new service and this new phone are way, way, way better than that last one I had. You guys saw the stream, the section I did on Kent's pub stream of the three-toed sloth at the zoo that I used to work at and went by for a visit. And it was like 1 frame per second. It was ridiculous. It's the middle of Palo Alto. So I'm looking forward to going back and doing some more stuff there with the animals with this better connection. I mean, it's better obviously if I just record a video and post it later, but it's kind of nice to have live streams for interaction. Of course, I can't see the stream now, so I can't chat with you guys, especially since I'm trying to walk and not fall down a dark trail. But also the chat box is too small. When I'm on the phone, then I'm gonna mess up the image. So I appreciate all you guys have been watching and chatting. I always enjoy watching back and reading the comments. And I'll often post some kind of follow-up in the message section afterward in the static video. So I always appreciate that. It makes it fun for me. I shoot this stuff anyway, but it's always more fun when people are interacting and are interested in it. So good to be a docent for the day, or teacher, or whatever you want to call it. Going over all this cobwebs in my head from years and years of studying this stuff, and surprising how much I do remember. But man, the amount of stuff I forgot. There was so many cool facts and figures, and like Indian uses of plants, historic stuff, and I used to just get off on that. It's really, really fun. But other things happen. You get older, you forget all that stuff. There's a skyline through the trees. So that's back toward the bay in the hills, and back into the bay a little bit. This is back into the hills a little on this side. San Francisco is right about that direction behind this tree. And on a good day, at a high point, that's not here, you can see it, but the trees block the view from here. The trail I did, I think once with you guys. Same trail I just mentioned I got a ticket for leaving too late. That is a really great view, and you can actually see San Francisco from there, as long as it's not foggy or super hazy. It's a tiny little speck, but you can tell it's San Francisco. And the way I've confirmed that with binoculars and stuff, obviously. So, but you can at least see the speck on a video shot of, yep, that's San Francisco way over there, because it's like 35, 40 miles from here. So the fact you can even see it is pretty stunning. But you got to get high up and have a clear day. Okay, the trail's getting real dark now, so I'm going to put the thing up to show the sky and look down so I don't get my eyes blasted by the screen. I do want to find one of the trees here has some good. Use the light of the camera real quick to see. Got some of these trees have some nice moss, and this is where I get my tardigrades from sometimes. Tardigrades are aquatic, but also wet material like moss. And because they're really good at handling desiccation and harsh conditions, even desiccation of space, they actually survived exposure to space and reconstituted. Amazing little buggers. Anyway, I find them all the time here on like the sphagnum moss on the trees here. Just reconstituted because it's often quite dry. There's some right here. I'm gonna grab a little cluster of it, and maybe I'll get lucky with some tardigrades. I would show you, but I don't think I can turn the camera on while this thing is streaming. I'm in the light on for the camera. So I'm just gonna grab a little cluster of moss and keep walking. Trick is you just take this dry moss, soak it in water for a little while, so because the moss resurrects just like the tardigrade does. It looks dry and dead, but it's fine. It's been moss. The mosses are on the trees for a reason. They've been living this lifestyle for millions and millions of years. Used to hot, dry, and cold, wet, moist conditions, even soaking wet, submerged. They can handle it all. So tardigrades, same thing. So they're perfect for each other. So I love that they're called moss piglets, because they do kind of look like a little pig, or a bear with like a little snout like a pig. They have 8 legs, but they are cute little buggers. And I talked about them before on my micro stream, but maybe not here. They're so different and so weird. They're in their own phylum. So if you study biological taxonomy at all, so easiest thing to understand for most people is our own taxonomy. So we're animals, so that's the kingdom Animalia. Phylum is vertebrata. Phylum chordata is we're a chordate. We have a dorsal hollow nerve tube for our nerve cord in the back. Subphylum vertebrata, so we have vertebrates, vertebral column, because tunicates in the ocean are actually chordates. They look nothing like us. They're gelatinous. They have really primitive, intake and exit siphon for filtering water, but they actually have a primitive nerve cord inside there. It's hilarious. So subphylum vertebrata, class Mammalia, Order is primates. I know people don't want to say they're primates, but that's what we are. Study the teeth, you study the hair, study the tons of stuff. We have mammary glands, just like they do. We have just, we're primates basically. So I know religious people don't want to admit that, but that's okay. This is biology. So class primates. There's some other like subclasses and other kinds of stuff in there. I'll skip over. Family, hominidae, or hominids, and genus Homo, and species Sapiens. And because they've done some other genetic work and some other stuff, there have been some other, occasionally you get a subspecies thrown in there as well. I'm not up on the latest with the human part of it, but basically there's Homo sapiens for as long as I can remember, and then sometime in college or whatever, they started referring to us as Homo sapiens sapiens, so there's a subspecies thrown in there. And I forgot why, but probably some more genetic stuff. There may have been a Homo sapiens something else in the fossil record. Anyway, so that's the taxonomy. Tardigrades are animals, but then they're not chordates. They're actually tardigrada. They have their own phylum. And they're like, I think they're like 1,000 species or so in that phylum. And that's it. There's no other animal in that phylum. And the classification goes down from there. I don't know all the class and family and all that kind of stuff, but they're so unique. They have their own damn phylum. Pretty special. And all this like intense survival stuff for the environments they come from or live in or can be exposed to. Pretty phenomenal. Okay, so now we got some, it's still pretty bright sky, but it's getting darker. I'm seeing stars now. Probably can't see that on the, I guess maybe you can. There's an airplane going over there of that tree line. A little bit. Arcturus is actually up there. There's a star. So there's a quick thing. Again, you can't see it on this. Maybe I can enhance the video later if you play on your computer. But you can see the bowl of the Big Dipper, the handle, and the handle arcs to the star Arcturus, which is right there. And then Arcturus goes a straight line down to Spica in Virgo, which is already setting. But then you're over here, and you can barely make out Antares and Scorpius the Scorpion. And I got some footage, but I haven't had a chance to process and upload it yet with all the other stuff I've been doing. There was an Antares occultation about 2 weeks ago. The moon, it went right behind the moon. And it was really bad because it was during, the sun hadn't gone down yet. So it was my first experience not only taking some tracking shots with my new telescope with the motor drive to counteract the rotation of the Earth, but I've never taken those kind of shots with occultations and the moon. The moon is really easy to see naked eye all the time, daytime, nighttime, whatever. And the star wasn't even naked eye when this event started. So I'm like, oh great, this will be a lot of fun. And luckily, I didn't feel so bad. A lot of people in my club also complained about the event that night because they had trouble seeing it and imaging it properly. And they have way more experience than I do, so I didn't feel so bad. But I did get the footage. I do need to process it a little bit. I might be able to adjust it just enough so you can see Antares pop out. I got set up a little bit too late for the first entry, so when it hit the moon on the dark limb, because it was what's called a waxing gibbous moon, so it was past half moon basically, which is called first quarter. And because new moons, when it's not there, right, it's just invisible because it's there's no sunlight hitting it from our angle, right? But It was just past first quarter, so waxing gibbous moon, and so the dark area, which normally is illuminated by earth shine when it gets dark enough, and your eyes are adjusted and stuff, you can see earth shine, earth light reflecting from the sun, bouncing off the earth onto the moon. You can still see where it's dark, even though it's not a proper phase. Anyway, the star was hitting that area of the moon, so it's really cool. In the right conditions, at that time of day, you wouldn't see the earth shine. So you would see the shape of the moon, know where the rest of the moon is supposed to be, but suddenly the star disappears. And if you didn't know the moon well enough, you go, why'd that disappear? Well, it's going behind the moon. You just can't see that part of the moon because of the phase. Anyway, I missed that part of the picture because I got set up too late. I got set up, probably a good half hour before it was going to emerge on the other side. Got some pictures, and then of course people come by and ask what you're doing. I showed them some stuff with the scope. Got some pictures of the moon before I took everything down. So I captured the event, but I've yet to review the footage to see if it's usable. But it was something fun to see. I mean, because I literally saw it, but I was also trying to record it at the same time. I'm not sure if the recordings turned out. So occultations are fun. There's also grazing, stellar grazing events. Some of my friends do those a lot. And if you plan that correctly, you can find a north-south road, perfectly straight north-south road, align people so many feet apart. I think it's like 20, 30 feet or more apart, maybe longer. As many people as you can get. So if not that many people, probably a much longer distance. The point is you want to get a pretty good cross-section of the graze, because it's parallax, right? That person's view is going to be different than my view, than someone else's view up the road. And the whole point is to, as the star grazes the moon, it disappears over and over and over again because it's hitting peaks and valleys. And so when people reported these events, and it's on a beep coming from time-based radio thing, so it's kind of old school tech, and you're basically looking at the thing, you're not recording it visually, you're just watching it, and on a recorder with the beeps, you're basically saying in, out, along with the beeps. And then some poor sap has to go back through all that data, put it in a spreadsheet for everyone's point of view, and from that you can create a graph, which is a pretty good approximation of the mountains on the edge of the moon. So another example of amateur astronomers contributing to science with just some simple observations. Just kind of clever, actually. I almost participated in one once, and then I forgot about it for years. And then I don't know if they're doing it much anymore after COVID and all that stuff. But anyway, it was a cool thing. And they used to post the results and go, hey, that's pretty good. It's a low res approximation of the moon, mountains and valleys, but it's better than nothing. Of course, now with all the stuff I showed you guys some stuff on the apps on the phones and iPads and even on the computer. All the stuff you can simulate in the computer now. I think a lot of people would be less interested in doing the actual data collection and just look at what's on the computer. But there are some old-fashioned folks who still like participating in a group event, data collection, the camaraderie, the whole thing. Probably have a few drinks when they go celebrate the data. So there's always some social events around that stuff, which is fun. Ooh, very dark here, almost slipped and fell. I'm on a pretty level spot now, but there are some sections from the fact that this area right here gets a lot of water I'm walking through, and the erosion causes these crazy little peaks and valleys in the trail. And when it's dark like this, you really can't see what you're doing. So now, here's a plane going overhead here. So the YouTube app is funny. On the normal mode, I would think it'd be much better at seeing like the Big Dipper right now and Arcturus. I'm not even sure if they're showing up well here. It's so small. But I actually talked to some people at YouTube. I met unofficially and said, can you please put in a request for camera control in YouTube? If you're just doing daylight stuff with your friends and all that silly stuff, doesn't matter. But if you're trying to do anything like this, where you want to show some unusual lighting conditions or dark or astronomy or whatever, you have zero control over the camera. And it'd be nice to sometimes overexpose it or underexpose it instead of having to be auto all the time and just look. But I'm sure that would fall on deaf ears, so they don't really care. It's not their normal use case, so I'm just a weirdo asking for features. There's a little street light on the side of the freeway, casting some light. Pretty sparse right now. It is a Sunday night, so not crazy like a Friday or Saturday night would be. This going to San Francisco, this is normally packed. A lot of people going for nightlife and food and whatever else. So pretty boring right now. But still noisy, as you heard up on the hill. Doesn't take much to make a lot of noise. So all those places protected and pretty pristine in its own way. It's still got a lot of human noise hitting you when you're walking around here. It's never completely, you got airplanes, you got the cars. Occasionally hear like neighbors running a lawnmower or something like that. Like chainsaw. But some days, it's, other than the road, it's dead quiet. But now we got crickets, which is nice. Now they're further away, you guys probably can't hear them. And you can't even see the trail now, but I'm passing another trail junction that goes under the freeway back to where some people park. And so I've got another, try to aim at the sky since it's so damn dark here. Can't see anything. Let's see. Okay. So I've seen some stuff. Just nothing up ahead where it's very dark. I've got another maybe 5,000 feet. Maybe a little more than that to walk. This part of the trail is kind of funny because they're like on the sides are walls and walls of poison oak. Some growing up things, some just walls of poison oak. And on a windy day, I'm convinced one time I came here on a really hot day when theoretically the oils can be volatile. And I'm pretty much convinced, being close to it on a windy day when it's really hot, that some of the oils blew onto my skin and I got the rash. Because I know that day I didn't touch anything. And later that day I got poison oak contact dermatitis. So that's how nasty this stuff is. It's volatile. You can inhale it if it burns. You can get secondary, infection where my dad used to bring it home from the golf course, not knowing he had it because he didn't get it. Going for his golf balls in the rough. Touch a bunch of shit, come home. Hey guys. Touching a bunch of door handles and whatever. We go about our daily business. And suddenly, hey, I got poison oak again. Did you go golfing? Sure enough, that's what it was. So, pretty bad stuff. Pretty much when you go, any place you think you've contacted it or come close to it, you gotta throw your clothes in the wash, wipe down your shoes with isopropyl alcohol or something, take a shower, and just make sure you didn't touch anything else unless you prepared your hands first. So, pretty bad. You ever had it, you know what I'm talking about. Supposedly cashew fruits can give you the same thing. They're in the same family as cashews. Anacardiaceae. And, but I've never had cashew fruits. It just had the actual, the center of the nut. So, okay, it's quite dark now. I'm not registering anything on the camera. So thanks, YouTube. Looks like the camera's broken. This now became an audio show. Audio only. Get into an opening here, which is nice during the day. You get like Western meadowlarks out here singing. And you find lizards sunning on the rocks. Came here a long time ago with a friend who also used to work at the zoo. And he unfortunately had a really bad case of diabetes. And he was starting to go blind from it. This kid hadn't even graduated college yet. And he was already having some issues like that. It's kind of a rough life. A super nice guy, way into lizards and snakes. So if I had questions about herps, basically, lizards, snakes, amphibians, I'd go to him because he was a good resource, studying for fun. And we came out here at least once looking for lizards and stuff because he knew what he was talking about. He's a cool guy. I told him about other times I went out here, found stuff. Beautiful skink called a Gilbert skink. It's a smooth lizard. They have small legs. And if you miss the legs or just ignore them, it looks like a snake. It's got a long tapered body, pointy head, very, very smooth, glassy looking, like a snake, but it's a lizard. And they're beautiful, with a bluish head, reddish sides, colors underneath. Very pretty animals. So I told him about those I'd see out here once in a while. And he knew his stuff. And then sadly, I had taken scuba diving. I was talking about all my fun scuba diving, even though it's dangerous, it's a lot of fun. Took the classes, started doing the dives. Because, I was a good, 5-6 years older than he was. So he goes, hey, I'm going to Foothill College now. They have a big pool. They have swimming classes as well as scuba diving in the pool. So I'm like, oh, that's great, man. Just be careful. It's very dangerous. I had a lot of fun, but, I learned in the class when you do the buddy breathing thing, if the guy's an asshole, doesn't pass you the thing, you pop out of the water if you exhale because you're going to choke, right? You have to trust the people you're with. Trust the gear as much as you can, but trust the people you're with. If you can't, you really can't scuba dive. Can't go by yourself, and you can't go with somebody you can't trust. So be careful, have fun, whatever. He was all excited about it. He went and did several classes. I only talked to him about it a couple times, and then all of a sudden one time I heard there was an accident, and unfortunately his buddy wasn't paying attention. Instructors weren't paying attention. And the guy drowned in the pool at the college. And it was really bummed out because I'm like, he was being as careful as he could, knowing what he knew after what I told him. I'm sure they told him all the scary stuff before you get in the water like you're supposed to. His mom was in the stands watching. And something happened. It only takes a few minutes, or 30 seconds even sometimes. And somebody screws up. Or maybe he had a diabetic episode, like insulin shock or something like that, if he was exerting himself too much. Or whatever the case is, who knows? Nobody knows. And he was gone. Really, really sad. Super nice guy. Although he's having some vision problems and stuff, he had his whole life ahead of him. So it was really, really sad. And then so much so that they rebuilt a whole section of the zoo before this recent rebuild. Because this is like a long time ago. This is like 1990, something like that. They rebuilt a whole section of the zoo and made it a demonstration area in his name. And it was really nice, little statues in there and of animals and replanted. Beautiful place dedicated to him. And his family actually came and helped build it. And after that, the family said, okay, we got to go move back to Montana. The father was part Blackfoot Indian. in his past, just a little bit. Grew up in Montana, had family there. He says, the only reason I would stay here at this point is for my son. He's no longer here. This place has too many memories, especially some sad ones. So we have to leave. So he moved back to Montana, which is, again, really sad. Nice guy. So yeah, it's not exactly a PSA podcast or stream here or whatever, but doing those activities, scuba diving, even snorkeling if you don't do it right, be very, very careful. Super dangerous. You're easy to drown, choke, embolize if you have pressure in your lungs from the compressed air. I actually, another thing I told him before he took the class is the last checkout dive I had with one of the guys in class I chose as a dive buddy. We went to Monterey Bay in Carmel to do some dives. And there's this famous place called Maccabee Beach on Cannery Row, where all the touristy stuff is. There's an El Torito restaurant there on the pier. And there's a beach right there, and you can just go right out there and dive. Now you have to be careful because to the right, near the El Torito, there's an old rebar structure under the water that they never took out. And if there's a swell or you're not watching, you can impale yourself on the rebar. Very dangerous. So we were told ahead of time, stay away. And I saw from a distance, I said, yeah, I'm not going over there. But anyway, we're just doing a basic dive. Kind of a boring beach. I didn't see that much stuff there. Maybe a few light bulb tuna kits and some, nice anemones and a couple jellies floating by and stuff. But on the way back, on the last dive of the day, because it's you do for Open Water 2 certification for YMCA. It's different than PADI and NAUI, but you're supposed to do two dives a day for at least, I think it was at least 2 days. It might have been 6 days. I mean, at least 6 dives total. So it's at least 4 dives total or 6 dives. I think it was 4. So 2 on one day, pick another weekend, 2 on another day. And that's your final checkout. You practice what you learn in class. Instructor's on premises, so you can ask him. Also there for emergencies, something goes wrong. Baywatch style. Long before Baywatch was on TV. But anyway, we were out there doing our thing. Coming in, it's like cold water. Monterey Bay is beautiful. Not a ton of diversity like the tropics, but a lot of just general stuff. It's very rich in nutrients. So you're bound to see lots of stuff. You may not see the diversity like you see in tropics, but what they lack in diversity, they make up for in numbers. So it's really stunning stuff. So we're out there having fun and having the biology classes. I knew some of the stuff I was looking at. So we're swimming up, and as practiced and discussed, you don't want to get knocked off your ass, on your ass, from your feet with the wave when you're coming in, because you're exhausted from the cold water. Because the summer upwelling makes the water a lot colder than you would think. It's actually slightly warmer in some areas and the shallows in the winter than it is in the summer, because all the upwelling that happens in the spring and summer brings a lot more cold water to the surface. So it can sometimes feel a lot colder in summer. So you gotta have a damn wetsuit, no matter what. Even with the wetsuit, after a certain amount of time, you're underwater, you get cold. And fighting that cold takes a lot of energy. So you're exerting yourself, you're fighting the cold, you're getting pretty damn tired. So the goal is you come in for your thing, you've logged your dive tables manually. We don't have a computer, we do it manually. Keep an eye on your gauge for your depth, your time, and your overall tank pressure left. Come out. As you get into the splash zone, crawl. Get on all fours, crawl out. Once you've cleared the water, then you stand up. You don't want to get knocked on your butt by the wave when you're tired. Not just unsafe, it's just you look ridiculous. So we were doing that, and on the way crawling, there's all this disturbance in the beach. Like, hey, 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 guys waving their hands, screaming. I saw my instructor basically do David Hasselhoff before David Hasselhoff. He did the whole Baywatch run and plunge into the ocean to save somebody who had a problem. We had stopped and looked back. What's going on? And they were trying to pull this guy out who looked like he may have still been flailing a bit, but it may have been just them moving his body. Anyways, they're pulling him in. He just looked like purple. And by the time they got him to the water's edge, he wasn't moving at all for sure. He was purple, a little bit bloated. What people thought, because he was by himself, either dive buddy wasn't watching or he just didn't have a dive buddy, which is no. He probably embolized. So when you learn scuba, you're supposed to rise at the speed of the bubbles you're emitting. The smallest bubbles, not the big ones. And so you just follow that up and use that as an ascent gauge. You rise too fast. You guys know chemistry and physics. Boyle's law and Charles' law and all that kind of stuff. Well, Boyle's law reduce the pressure, the volume increases. So as you're coming up, 33 feet is 1 atmosphere. So now you're at 2 atmospheres, whereas at sea level you're at 1 atmosphere of pressure. So you're at 33 feet, which is a common dive place to go. Lots of good stuff at 33 feet, sometimes a little bit lower. And you build up a lot of nitrogen in your system, and overall the pressure's, you're taking a lot of stuff into your lungs at high pressure. As you rise, your lungs have the air expand inside of them. So you want to get that air out. Continue to exhale, never stop exhaling on the way up. And you use that ascent guide with the bubbles. If you don't do that, or if your weight belt suddenly drops, which is keeping you neutrally buoyant, and you rise too quickly, you can blow out your lungs, or at least one of your lungs. And that's brutal. It's called an embolism. And when it's severe enough, it could be instant death. This guy survived. He still had a pulse. He was purple, but he wasn't dead. But back then there was really no internet to speak of. So I checked the newspaper for several days afterward, and there was an article about the guy in the paper. Hospital for several days, didn't make it. So I'm like, okay, it was already scary enough seeing it in person, but knowing he didn't make it really was an eye-opener to just be really, really careful. So I went scuba diving a whole bunch after that. Study projects with classmates, friends, on trips a little bit. But because I haven't found any consistent dive buddies for years, I haven't gone anywhere scuba diving. It's probably been 15, 20 years. And I love it, but you gotta have the right people to go with, the right conditions. Sometimes you go out, visibility is terrible. Just like with astronomy, you go out, you got twinkly stars. Or later in the night when I did the post-cloudy thing, it was terrible. You saw how bad Jupiter and Saturn looked until I cleaned up the images. Same thing with water visibility. Whether it's turbulence in the water from upwelling, plankton blooms, local whatever causing it, you can sometimes have 10 feet visibility, which is miserable because you gotta get really close to stuff. And it's also more hazardous. There's one time, this wasn't even a visibility problem, it was my fault. We're at a place called Monastery Beach, down at Carmel by Point Lobos. Just because there's a monastery near there. There's an actual Point Carmel Beach or something like that. I forgot the exact name of the beach, but everyone calls it Monastery Beach. And because there's a north wall on the north side, and then the south side is more gradual. If you go on the North Wall, you can go easily hundreds of feet, which if you're interested in that, it's extremely dangerous. So they also call it Mortuary Beach. A lot of people have taken the wall, gone too far, gotten into trouble, and drowned. So it's very scary. So I stay on the south side. More kelp forests, more scenic, more wildlife, just more basic and more fun, and shallow. 30, 40 feet, something like that, for the most part. But I was swimming around one time with my buddy, like, hey, let's go over there. You're gesturing. You learn all these gestures. You also have a slate to draw on sometimes so you can communicate with words and not just dumb symbols if you want to look at a specific animal. So we were doing that, and I was looking back. I'm like, hey, I wonder what's back. And I turned, and I almost did a face plant on a giant sea nettle jelly that was basically dead, just hovering. So I could have easily seen it if I kept watching where I was going, but I kept swimming at the same speed, got distracted, and then looked ahead and almost did a face plant on a sea nettle. And if you know anything about these nematocysts, the stinging cells in anemones, jellies, all those things, they're ready to fire long after the animal's dead. So you hear about these stories down in Australia where you have people getting blasted by a sea wasp, which is really bad. So much so you could have either anaphylaxis or a real bad poison response and die. Or you just get really nasty, like Portuguese man of war stings. It washes up on the beach, you touch it, it stings you. It's dead, but it's still ready to fire. So I got really lucky. I didn't do a face plant. I almost ran into a moon jelly once, Aurelia. That's the one if you watch David Surchek's camera angles on Kent's show or his on his Harbor Jams, I think it shows sometimes. You'll see it has a poster on his wall of Aurelia jellies, really beautiful moon jellies. I almost ran into one of those once. Not a face plant, but just wasn't watching, and it was another dead one just hovering. So even the dead stuff that's not moving can mess you up if you're not paying attention. So you really have to pay attention. Just like any other discipline that has danger to it. You can't drop your guard. Got to pay attention to stuff. Plus, also, if you're not paying attention, just on a fun level, you'll miss stuff. I was in Jamaica snorkeling with some friends many years ago, and a beautiful stingray just went cruising by, a really big one. And if I hadn't been looking at the right place, I would have missed it. It just cruised by like a spaceship and was gone. It's not like the manta rays you see in Hawaii that just kind of hover and swim around the lights where they feed them and stuff. It's just one of those sporadics. You don't look, you miss it. So it's fun. Anyway, so because there's nothing to see here for you guys, I'm going on all these random tangents. So hopefully it was somewhat interesting as I'm huffing and puffing still hiking out of here. I'm about a couple hundred feet from the car, so just about there. Let's say at a normal park, I'd be harassed right now. I'm parked within the park boundaries, I'm locked in, ranger's mad at me. Here they don't give a shit. It's really great. And because the tree line makes some really, really good dark skies here, this would be a good astronomy place too. Never thought about it before, but it's quite dark here. It's nice. No lights in your face. Good altitude. Might set up here sometime. It's a little bit of a drive, but it's definitely worth it for the nature. I'm sure I could find some other astronomy closer to home. But this is an option. It's nice. Not tonight though, there's some clouds on the edge, but all around me above is beautiful. And you got crickets here. You guys can hear that. Nice crickets. And here's civilization. There's a neighbor alongside the property. All kinds of houses up here. See the clouds in the distance there. Look at that big cloud bank. And again, this is not Yosemite. You're going to see the clouds all night because we like to illuminate our clouds in civilization. We don't have nice dark clouds. All kinds of light pollution. So another cool thing is they have this gate. So it's a gate for the cars to get in and out, the official cars. There's a walk-in gate that could basically lock at any time. Technically, it should be locked now, but it isn't. I can still walk through it. But hey, worst case scenario, the gate only goes this far. There's a guardrail here, and I can just walk over the guardrail through the plants and get out. So you're never locked in here. It's great. Now I'm going through the gate. And now I'm on road. Last few times I came out here, there was nice western bluebirds hanging out in the telephone poles. Beautiful little bluebird. Got dogs barking. And very sleepy neighborhood. Very dead here. All right, well with that, thanks everybody for hanging out. Hopefully it wasn't too random and crazy and boring and any other pejoratives I can think of. Beautiful place to walk. Now you got to see it at night, or sunset, dusk, and evening. And I look forward to the comments later. Thanks again. What was this? I can't even tell how long this has been running. The text is so small. But yeah, good times as usual. Fun to share this stuff instead of just doing it by myself. So hopefully you guys like that. Let's see, one more look. Can you see the Big Dipper? Looks like you kind of can. There's an airplane there. 2 airplanes going above the Big Dipper. But it might be just too faint to see it. So I'm assuming you can't see it, but you can definitely see the cloud sky glow over there, looking at the bay. And now it's getting windy again. So yeah, as usual, thanks again for hanging out, and I'll check the comments, leave some my own comments in the message section, and as always, appreciated. Have a good evening, morning, day, wherever you happen to be. Thanks guys, I'll catch you later.